Next news. Breaking news from the White House.
Tonight, the UFO disclosure clock just moved from rumor to reality because President Donald Trump has now said the files are coming in the near future, and he says military pilots told him they saw things you would not believe. Let that sink in for a moment. This is not a late-night podcast clip. This is the President of the United States confirming release is on the way. Disclosure is coming. And right as that happened, reports explode about pastors being warned, Congress getting involved, and online voices fighting to define what the story really is. So the question tonight is very simple. What exactly is about to be revealed to the American people? Now, this matters because once the Trump administration starts opening these files, this stops becoming a fringe topic and becomes a trust test for the entire federal government. Americans have spent decades being talked down to by bureaucrats, intelligence gatekeepers, and media smugglers of half-truths. If there are real records, real pilot testimony, and real classified material tied to unexplained craft, then the public deserves the facts now, not 10 years from now, after another committee buries it in paperwork. And think about the ripple effect. Families, churches, schools, veterans, and local communities are all going to be hit with the same question at the same time. What is true? What is disinformation? And who has been hiding what? Now, politically, this is another massive contrast moment. President Trump is signaling transparency in action, while the permanent Washington class looks like it has been sitting on answers for years. Americans can handle the truth. The deep state simply hates losing control of the story. And right on cue, Steven Spielberg is about to come out with a movie called Disclosure. And speaking of what Washington is finally being forced to reveal, there's another breaking America First development you need to know about tonight. This from the White House. They've just announced over $30 billion to secure America's critical mineral supply chains and named a specific Alaskan project as a key strategic asset for U.S. mineral independence. Now, I've personally been to the Vizsla copper drilling site myself. I've seen it with my own eyes. But what's happening right now in Alaska is bigger than most people realize. President Trump just unveiled Project Vault, a $12 billion strategic mineral reserve designed to stockpile essential resources to keep America strong, secure, and independent from foreign adversaries. That's huge. Now, Vizsla Copper is positioned right in the middle of this push, trading in the U.S. under VCUFF and in Canada as VCU.V. If you want the investor angle and the national security angle, check the exclusive briefing. It's linked below only for Next News viewers. Check it out now before this story gets even hotter. Now let's get back to this disclosure story, because the reaction to Trump's comment is revealing just how big this could get, and this is where it gets even wilder. As soon as Trump confirms the files are coming, you get a flood of reaction from every corner at once. One pastor says religious leaders were quietly told to prepare their people for a release concerning aliens and craft. Another says the entire UFO narrative is cover for something demonic. Then on the secular side, major podcasts and tech voices start saying it's implausible that we're alone. That pileup tells you something important. People believe a threshold moment is close. Now here's the moment. We've been covering this for weeks now, but this is the most recent moment when President Trump said disclosure is coming.
Mr. President, I have two questions for you. First, on the topic of space, do you have an update on the UFO files and when we're going to be seeing those?
Well, I think we're going to be releasing as much as we can in the near future. For some reason, and I guess it's just a reason that's been in the minds of people for a long time, that is such, they want to find out about the UFOs and anything having to do with UFO or related material, and we're going to be releasing a lot of things from that we have, and I think some of it's going to be very interesting to people. I've interviewed people, my first term primarily, but I interviewed some pilots, very solid people, and they said they saw things that you wouldn't believe. So you're going to be reading about it.
You're going to be reading about it, huh? So Trump just said the UFO files are coming. Pilots told him they saw things they couldn't explain. Now Pastor Greg Locke takes that and says this isn't disclosure at all. It's a cover-up for something dark. all this UFO talk is just a massive cover-up for an absolute demonic release into the earth like we've never seen. It's about to get so real. So he calls it spiritual deception. Now Joe Rogan and Chamath Palihapitiya take that conversation in a different direction, arguing it's basically impossible that we're alone. Here is a quick clip of them discussing UFOs and aliens on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Chet said that whatever they're going to release, it will be indigestible.
What does that mean?
Right.
Indigestible as in, or, well, then it doesn't mean that it's real then.
Well, I think it means that it'll be so crazy, if it's real, so crazy. He's the one that's been saying that there's these confirmed bases under the ocean, that there's these specific locations. I think he talked to, you're shaking your head. You don't believe a word of it.
No.
How come?
I think it's true that look, it's completely implausible that there aren't other species.
Right.
Completely implausible.
Just the
vastness of what we're dealing with. So the real question is, like, why haven't we encountered people or those things, those beings?
Right.
And it's probably because they have bigger fish to fry. You know? So by the time that we meet them and they meet us, we're going to kind of be at the edge of, like, we've kind of been there, done that on our own planet, and then we've kind of, like, developed the technology, I guess, to get beyond it. But somewhere along the way, there must have been a few. Just mathematically impossible. So then the question is it buried, or were people confused when it first came here? Like, if you had a spaceship land in, like, the 1800s,
right,
what would people have done? They would have just freaked out. They wouldn't have understood it. Maybe they would have buried it. Depending on where it was, maybe they started to pray to it.
Right.
And you would have just moved on. And then that isn't documented in history, so...
But it is.
But how?
It is. There's a lot of it documented in history. First
you mean
all,
like hieroglyphics and like monuments?
Well, Book of Ezekiel. The Book of Ezekiel goes in depth about some sort of a UFO encounter that Ezekiel experiences.
Right.
Where it's a wheel within a wheel and a cloud with fire flashing forth continually in the midst of a cloud, as it were gleaming metal. And from the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and the creatures darted to and fro like the appearance of a flash of lightning. This is all in the Bible. It's also in the Mahabharata. They talk about Vimanas, these flying crafts, and I think it's entirely possible that we have been visited periodically, and that we have been monitored, and that we are monitored.
I agree.
Currently.
I agree.
And if I was going to hide, I would hide in the ocean.
Hide in the oceans. See, you've got the spiritual warning on one side, mainstream podcast world saying other species are likely out there. Tim Pool says it's happening. And we have this, pastors told to prepare. A large number of pastors were invited to a meeting with individuals from the U.S. government telling them to prepare for UFO disclosure. Buckle up.
I had a friend that sent me a text message. I was in a meeting, a weekend meeting, preaching Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. And he said, Perry, can you give me a call? I have some information that has come to my attention. Of course, when a friend of yours does that you know quite well, you have no idea what information they're talking about. And I'm not going to go into great detail. But there were a large number of pastors that had been invited to go to a certain state to hear some men in the United States government and others share with them a concern that they had. And this particular man, and I'll not name him, and then we may end up doing some teachings with him or having an event at his church. He has a great church. But he said, Perry, what they're about to release, from what we're hearing, there's going to be a release concerning aliens and concerning unidentified flying object spacecraft, that some of the people who were in the meeting were telling us as pastors You need to prepare your people, and you need to get ready to answer them for what you're about to hear being released. And some of it has to do with crafts that have been discovered that are not allegedly a part of our planet, and the materials they're made of are not a part of our planet. Very strange reptilian-looking creatures, and other things that almost sound like something out of a sci-fi movie or an Orson Welles book.
Reptilian creatures. Pastors told to prepare. A meeting with individuals in the U.S. government telling them to prepare for UFO disclosure. Prepare your people. That's the message that is being transmitted right now. So the real takeaway is not whether every online theory is true. The real takeaway is that President Trump just moved disclosure into official territory. He didn't laugh it off. He didn't dodge it. He said the government will release as much as it can, and he backed that up, citing interviews with very solid pilots who reported impossible things. That means the center of gravity is completely changed. The establishment no longer gets to hide behind ridicule. Congress is circling, public pressure is building, and the information gate is starting to crack open. Now, for America, this is bigger than curiosity. It's about whether our government finally trusts its own citizens more than the bureaucracy trusts its own secrets. The bottom line here, files are coming. The timeline is tightening, and President Trump is once again doing what the political class said would never happen, forcing transparency where Washington preferred silence. Whether this ends with advanced aerospace revelations, proof of long-hidden programs, or something even stranger, the American people deserve the truth in full, not spin, not selective leaks, just the unvarnished truth. So I want to hear from you. Do you believe the Trump administration should release every UFO file it legally can? Yes or no? Drop your answer in the comments right now and share this report with someone who still thinks this is all a joke. Make sure you subscribe, you turn on your notifications, but better yet, text raw feed to the number on the screen, 844-840-4963, so you're the first to know when disclosure drops. You'll be able to bypass the algorithm suppression, get direct alerts from me to your phone, like hundreds and hundreds of other patriots who are already getting the message. Make sure you check out the Next News merch shelf below this video. Stay bold, stay informed, and remember, when truth breaks loose, patriots had better be ready.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.